There we go.
Oh, that was clean, Vince. I like that. All right. Hello and welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Podcast, where we discuss everything Victoria Real Estate. I'm Adrian Maclaren, and I'm joined by
Vincent Baart.
and
Jocelyn Cseff.
and of course we have our mortgage specialist.
David Steinberg.
Hello.
Hi.
And we are the City Nest team, and we're real estate agents at Remax Camosun in Greater Victoria. We just switched offices, actually. Guys, how does it feel? Well, actually, I've switched offices. You're procrastinating.
I haven't filed the paperwork yet.
But yeah, soon we will all be located at the Oak Bay office. Doesn't mean that we don't service anywhere else, but we potentially have a development coming up. I'll sprinkle some foreshadowing news in there. So gonna maybe have a little bit of a sales office in there. Other than that, guys, what's new? What's going on?
I mean, we were just talking before we hit record. It just feels very boring.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's just all work.
Yeah.
It's all work right now. So we're recording this in early March.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't have any fun anecdotes to share. Nothing.
No?
Just work.
One
Just
fun
work.
thing.
Not one fun thing.
Yeah.
I went to the OLP and Collective Soul concert last week,
Oh.
and that was fun.
What is
It's-
that? Is that just like...
Our Lady Peace.
Oh.
It's a concert. I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
you're a little bit of a younger
know.
Yeah.
generation
Who's
than I
that?
am, so
Are they on
I-
TikTok or...
90s music. 90s
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, I
So,
gotcha.
There's
Knew
a lot
all
of
the
concerts,
words.
actually.
Yeah.
Lots of concerts going
Yeah.
on right now. I don't know. It's concert season. I'm not going. They're all so late. They started like 8
And they're
o'clock.
so loud.
They're so
Oh,
loud.
geez, yeah. Awesome. So should we get into the nitty gritty stuff, guys?
Let's do it.
All right. So summary of the podcast today, we're going to get a bit of a mortgage rate update and some mortgage news from David. We're going to be talking about tariffs, of course.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Womp.
And then we have a spec and vacancy tax update. Rental prices dropping
Question mark?
for the fourth month in a row, maybe. If we have time, we'll see how the podcast is going. I might do some quiz on the 5 most expensive homes in Victoria. The clip of you talking about that $57 million island.
Oh, yeah?
So that was our best performing reel.
People want to know.
People want to know
Wow.
about these
Okay.
expensive
Give the
properties.
people what
Give
they
it to
want.
them.
Exactly.
Give it to them.
Yeah.
And then neighborhood update, of course, from Jocelyn, and then we'll get into a bit of a market update that Vince will be kind of leading. So to start us off, David, do you want to talk about tariffs first? Do you want to give us your mortgage update? What do you?
Yeah.
Should we start with good news?
Yeah.
news?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's start with the good news is that,
Yeah.
yes, mortgage rates do seem to be dropping.
Okay.
Yay.
This has just been happening, I'd say, in the last week or so.
Right.
Nothing's dropped dramatically, but I think my best 5-year rate is at around 4.09 on a 5-year fixed.
Wow.
Wow.
And for very specific deals, I might be able to get as low as 3.99 on a 5-year fixed,
Wow.
but that's for high ratio
Yeah.
only.
I have a question to interject,
Please.
David.
Yeah.
At what rate, to say someone locked in a 3 or 5 year recently, maybe not this year, but like a couple years ago, at what percentage rate that they locked in, does it make it worth it to refinance at a 4.09? Like, would they have to be sitting at a 5.5, or is it more complicated than that?
It's a little bit more complicated than that
Yeah.
because we have to figure out what the existing lender is going to charge on their penalty.
Yeah, and it's normally 3 months of interest only?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Depends.
Sorry, Vince.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 months of whatever the interest. Oh, man. Back to you, David.
Yeah, back to me. Okay, I'll take it from you. Have a sip of coffee.
Way to put it on the spot.
If we're paying out the 5 big banks and
Yeah.
it's a fixed rate,
which is probably the majority,
Yeah.
right?
so it's an interest rate differential.
Yeah.
And that calculation could be wildly above the 3-month interest penalty.
Oh, okay.
So it's really, really specific on the time frame, what lender we're paying out. If we're paying out generally like a monoline lender or a credit union,
Yep.
the penalty will probably be closer to a 3-month interest penalty.
Okay.
They still use interest rate differentials, but the way that they calculate it doesn't penalize
Right.
the client as much.
So, question for you. Maybe just for the listeners, if someone's listening and they have a 5.8%, they locked in a 5-year or a 3-year, maybe at the peak of interest rates.
Yeah.
Who should be calling you about potentially looking at a refinance to this 4% that's being offered now?
I'd say, I just encourage everybody to call me. because
Everybody listening.
everybody call. Because it only takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to figure out if
Right.
it's worth it or not.
Right.
So it's not like it's going to take me 2 or 3 hours and, I don't have to collect the full file. And it's just a 10 to 15 minute conversation.
You're just running the numbers.
Yeah, we're just running the numbers. And generally with the 5 big banks, actually all lenders, a tidbit here for the listeners is that all lenders have to publish an online calculator for their prepayment penalties.
Right.
They bury it within their website. You can't generally find it. You have to know what you're looking for.
Right.
Because they'll bury it within all their calculators, or they'll bury it in their frequently asked questions or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they do have a calculator to calculate out your penalty. But the one thing that you do need to calculate out that penalty is the original discount that the Big 5 bank gave at the time of funding.
For
So,
fixed rates.
For fixed rates,
Right,
yes.
okay.
Variable rates is always a 3-month interest penalty.
Gotcha.
And there's no porting of variable rates either. So I have to be really careful now when I'm telling clients when they ask me, can I port a variable rate? No variable rates are ever portable.
Right.
But anyways, with the fixed rate payoff, clients can actually go and use that calculator to figure out what their penalty is, as long as they have that original discount amount, which is going to be in the original papers that the clients have signed.
Right. Just a quick pause. Daniel, cut this part. David, can you
Am I too
just
loud?
no, you're perfect. I just like because you're facing us, you're not straight
Oh.
onto the mic. So if you could push the mic just
To here.
and then angle it a bit more towards you. Like
Okay.
that way. Yeah. And
Like
that way-
here?
Well, and then you can go back to your original spot.
Okay.
Just because I find that when you're facing
And you're kind of aiming. Like
yeah,
when you're
if you're
talking
like
to us.
Right.
it really only
Yeah, I
it
want to
re-
try to get
it ca-
onto that.
it catches it more if you're like facing
Okay.
the mic. Okay, back
Is this
on.
better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry to cut you off and
No,
ask
that's
that
okay.
question, David. But I thought it might be a useful thing. I feel like we haven't experienced a declining interest rate environment for a long time,
Mhm.
right? So
I've had a few people ask me that question.
yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody, I'm getting a lot of calls about renewals now.
Yeah.
And generally right now, how I treat those renewals is I have to say to the client, get your offer from your bank first,
Yeah.
and then come to me with that offer, and I'll see if I can beat it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go through the whole process of opening your file and collecting all the documents and going through all the rigmarole for your bank, whoever they are. Doesn't matter which one it is. If they're just going to match or beat if they're going to,
Yeah.
if I can't significantly beat your existing lender's offer,
Then you should stay.
then you should stay.
yeah.
Yeah. Except if a client wants to transfer to a monoline lender, if they're expecting to pay out the mortgage within the 5 years,
Right.
because then the penalty will be way lower.
Okay.
I would like to throw a specific example onto the question of how much is this going to cost. So I have a specific example. It's an anecdote. A friend of mine has a mortgage that they just renewed, and they're thinking of selling the property. So they went to the
Mhm.
bank. So with about a $550,000 mortgage, which is probably, David, I would guess the average mortgage size somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So to cancel a variable fixed to essentially sell your property and cash out, the payment penalty on that is about $6,500,
A
$6,300
variable, yeah.
on variable. So
Yeah.
when we talk about like 3-month interest differential, like we all kind of like, oh yeah, I know what a 3-month interest differential is. Dollars and cents, I've had those types of cancellations cost me personally up to $8,000
Mhm.
on like a $400,000 or $500,000 mortgage. So if you've
Mhm.
got around a $500,000 mortgage, those are the numbers, give or take a few thousand. So it's not like it's going to cost you $20,000 to get out of it, but it's not going to cost you $1,000.
Yeah.
Let's back up here a little bit. When the bank is charging an interest rate differential, the more time left in the term affects the penalty. But yes, these interest rate differentials on a $550,000 mortgage can cost $30,000.
Wow.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. And that's why
and that's for mostly fixed.
only fixed.
Yeah.
Variable
Oh,
is
I was talking
only,
variable.
Yeah, variable is only ever a 3-month interest penalty.
Right.
Got it.
Fixed could be, this interest rate differential can be super nasty.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I think maybe even when I was buying my first property, I feel like the general public maybe doesn't realize is that, variable has that luxury of potentially being a little bit lower in certain times or than the fixed rate, depending on if we're on an interest rising environment. And then vice versa, fixed rates are actually lower right now. But the one benefit that a lot of people don't know is that, the flexibility. If you're planning on
With
selling
variable.
your property
Yeah.
in the next 5 years, or if you do want to get out of the mortgage for whatever reason, or you're changing properties or you're selling or for whatever reason, that's where the variable becomes a lot more. Even if you're getting a worse rate now and it's riskier, like you might be saving, like David said, $30,000 when you go to sell your property. So
Yeah. The other thing that a lot of people ask me is that they say, oh, well, I might only be paying out the mortgage in 2 years. So what about a line of credit? And I say, well, with the line of credit, you're actually starting at a much higher interest rate than a variable closed, meaning that your line of credit is going to be at prime plus 0.5, whereas your variable closed might be right now at prime minus 60, let's say.
Yeah.
So 1.1% better. So then it's about figuring out how long has to pass for the client to have the variable closed for the interest savings to become greater than the penalty that they're ultimately going to pay.
right.
So,
So call David.
yeah,
Yeah.
just call me.
Call
Yeah,
David.
just call
All
me.
right.
That's what
I'll
I'm
figure it
hearing.
all out.
Yeah, a lot of math.
So, David, you have brought it again,
Mhm.
some newspapers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I loved we did one reel that we posted, and it cut to the newspapers stacked on the desk, and I thought quite the
It's
effect
a prop.
there. But
Just
yeah,
like these
you have a
things.
headline.
This one, sometimes the paper just normally like looks like this.
Yeah,
But today specifically because of what Trump, with these tariffs, it's just the one pager, strong and free.
strong and free.
Mhm.
I
So-
love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just it's a statement. It's a statement that we're going to fight this, we're going to fight this trade war and we're going
not
to
gonna
be
roll
okay.
over. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
awesome. So, do you have any thoughts surrounding, I guess, like the uncertainty that these tariffs are kind of creating?
Yeah. I mean, I have some thoughts surrounding it, but my thoughts greatly differ from somebody living here in Victoria
Right.
versus somebody living in Oakville, Ontario.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Okay,
that's the one
so-
thing I think that is very interesting is I think different parts of Canada are going to be affected quite
Yeah.
differently.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Like here in Victoria, first of all, we're very well insulated
Mhm.
because there's already so much money here.
Yeah.
And all this money that's already here, it's not going away and it's not being taxed by any of these tariffs. So our real estate market, I think, is generally still buffered.
Mhm.
Whereas Oakville, Ontario, sure, if 20,000 people suddenly go out of work because their company that makes widgets that we're sending to the States doesn't send those widgets to the States anymore, those people directly will be out of work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't believe there's many businesses here, specifically in Victoria or even on the island, except for maybe
Tourism.
lumber.
Maybe. We might see tourism as well.
I think we'll probably see tourism increase, maybe.
That's-
Because our dollar's so weak.
Because
the
our
dollar's so
dollar's
yeah.
weak, but I think generally a lot of more people from the States might just come up here anyways.
Yeah.
But
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting is I've seen this influx of Americans showing compassion,
Mhm.
mostly on the west coast of the states, so like Washington, Oregon,
Mhm.
California, showing like this kind of rallying behind Canada, which
Yeah.
is so interesting because you think that they would be standing behind their country, but I
think
think
it surprised them too, though. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were surprised when the sights were turned on Canada. I think we were the last person that the country itself was expecting to turn against. So yeah, I have a lot of American friends, and they're all like, "Oh my, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening." So
Now it's their turn to apologize
yeah,
for
Yeah,
once.
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
yeah, so the few things about this that are very clear to me
Yeah.
is that as professionals here in Victoria, I don't think we should be overly I don't think anything is changing dramatically here in Victoria, except yes, costs will go up.
Mhm.
So there will be some costs of specific things that go up. But our unemployment rate here in Victoria, I don't think is going to be hugely affected. In Ontario's a different story, but we're not in Ontario.
Yeah,
We're here.
exactly.
Mhm.
But the questions that I kind of have surrounding this are, first of all, a lot of the media doesn't actually explain to us how these tariffs actually work.
Yeah.
Who pays for what where?
Mhm.
That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I'm kind of thinking about along all these lines is the US of A is supposed to be, their government is supposed to be a system of checks and balances.
Yeah.
They have 3 levels of government that all have to agree on everything. They have the Supreme Court, and this tariff thing was just like Trump deciding, oh, I'm just going to do this, and it doesn't seem like there's any opposition from anywhere in the US government saying we probably shouldn't do this because it's not, sure, there might be some extra tax revenue, I guess, being brought in that's going to just pay for tax cuts. But I'm wondering just if it shows just such a huge failure of their system when one person, whoever it is, can just come in and change something so dramatically and possibly cause a recession for his country.
Yeah.
There's no checks and balances there. Where are the checks and balances?
Yeah. One thing that I think we were talking about a little bit that I actually kind of really like about the tariffs, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, is I feel like in recent years in Canada and everywhere in the world, there's been a bit of a divide and people have been split in their opinions and everything. And I feel like the tariff news hit and then it got rescinded for 30 days and then the Four Nations Cup happened and Canada
was good.
whooped Connor McDavid overtime goal. And I've never seen Canada. That brought me back to like 10 years ago, like the Olympics in Vancouver.
We needed that win.
We needed that win. Like that was so honestly, I firmly believe that was so important for our country.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I am hopeful that, and we saw this a bit through COVID when we were having supply chain issues. Again, with a positive spin, Canada produces a lot. We just ship it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're keeping our resources in Canada, if we're producing within Canada, if we're buying within Canada, I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think we have a ways to go, but maybe this is our opportunity to stand, what is it, strong and free?
Yeah.
And keep our energy, keep our lumber.
And that's the other thing I think with the tariffs is it's kind of united Canadians. And maybe not for the right reasons or for whatever, but regardless, I've seen more Canadians united in feeling a certain way and backing behind the country and just being together. And that is such a refreshing feeling.
Oh, yeah. Like just a few years ago, do you remember when Alberta took BC wines off their liquor store shelves?
Yeah.
Like those are the types of battles that we were fighting internally amongst ourselves. And so to your point, this is a wonderful external unifier.
Yeah.
I think
nothing like a crisis to bring the people together.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to take this crisis and really examine how we do things internally too. Because ultimately, a lot of these tariffs, unfortunately, are going to hit the little people, you and me. Are the shareholders going to be hit hard?
No.
The shareholders might be, but like all those people already have all their money saved up. Jimmy Pattison's gonna be okay. Jimmy's gonna be okay. But I really think that we as Canadians have to really look internally at our system and say we have to be strong, and we have to say, I mean, it is truly my belief, and it's funny that I'm in a business that's kind of like works against this belief, but I do believe that ultimately for our system to work for everybody, the rich have to pay more in tax.
Yeah.
And
I don't know about that.
No, and I'm not talking about this is, and it's, it's a very how do you say it? Sorry. Like debatable point.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's got different opinions about it. And I'm not necessarily talking about rich people being $1 or $2 million in net worth. Think about how many, they say that there's 3,000 billionaires in the world, but how many 100 millionaires do you think there are?
I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. But you would think 100 million is only a tenth of a billion. So there must be a ton of people that have 100 million. Why aren't they paying more? Where are these people? Like, why don't we get these people to pay? I don't have it. I want, of course, everybody wants to get there. And maybe if I, worked super, super hard for the next 80 years I'd have it.
Maybe.
But no, like I'm a small business. You know,
Yeah.
you guys we're all small business. We don't have that kind of money. But it's really those people I feel like that have to sort of stand up and say, we've got this much money.
Yeah.
And it's maybe time for us to, you know, kind of
I think we're getting a little bit off topic.
Off topic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But that
I
is
was ready to jump in there.
it is an interesting topic, but
We're
I
getting
don't
political.
I don't
Sorry,
know.
invite me back, please.
Sorry, David, you'll be back. I just don't know if it would be useful for the listeners in terms of, you know, being updated on the real estate.
So
market.
edit this part out.
maybe we'll have a political podcast.
We
debate.
should.
I mean,
I think that'd be
politics
fun.
and real estate do align. We know
They
that.
do,
We
and it
yeah.
comes up, yeah. But
Yeah.
I would like to stick maybe with how it pertains to real estate, and So anyway,
But
go ahead.
and well, in regards to real estate,
Yeah.
I just tell my clients to remember the fundamentals. You know, you're buying a house for yourself to live in, and even if these tariffs only last for 1 year or 6 months or even 2 years, if you own the house for 5 or 10 years, that house is still going to go up in value, even if you bought it when it was. Even if you feel like the price that you bought it at was a little bit inflated.
But David, even if real estate never goes up, using the same logic that you've just applied, if you're just in your home for the next 5 to 15 years, you're going to see your family financial situation will improve as a factor of just paying off the mortgage, paying your bills, pride of ownership, all those good things. So the market doesn't even have to go up necessarily.
No.
And I love that. There's that stupid saying, what is it? Don't time the market. Wait. Oh,
buy
gosh.
real estate and wait. Don't
There we
wait
go.
to buy real estate.
There we go.
Yeah.
Vince pretending like he hasn't said that.
No, hang
10,000
on. No,
times.
yeah, I've said it so many times. It's about time in the market.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes,
time in the market,
yes.
not timing the market. And like people, the amount of conversations I'm having with people are like, oh, I'm holding off, see how this goes with the trade situation. Like, wow, how is that impacting your decision to need a roof over your house for your,
Right.
for
It's
your family?
uncertainty, though. I mean, we saw it through COVID.
Yeah.
People pulled back because they were uncertain. And unfortunately, historically, if we look at it, that's exactly the time you want to be buying, is
Yeah.
when there is uncertainty in the market because you're the only one. So,
When people are fearful, be greedy. When everyone else is greedy, be fearful.
yeah.
Warren Buffett.
Which is easier said than done, 100%. But
All right, I think we've hit the tariff stuff pretty hard. I think we should maybe
I
switch
haven't
over.
said tariff once.
Justin, get it out. Get it.
Tariff.
System. Yeah,
Tariff.
I'd like to move on, and then if we have some more time, we can kind of come back and
Talk about more tariffs.
talk
a
about
nice
some
segue.
more stuff. Yeah.
that was a good segue.
I kind of want to get into a couple updates really, really quickly. Speculation and vacancy tax. We just got notified. I got notified today that some changes are coming for 2026.
The government called you?
Yeah, they were like, Adrian, we got news for the podcast.
Yeah, this is great.
You got to get it out to the people. So the rate is increasing, which is always a fun thing. But basically, for speculation vacancy tax, the base rate was for Canadian citizen residents, and this isn't satellite families or anyone. It's like you're living in Canada, you're making money in Canada. It was 0.5% for the speculation tax
On the assessed value.
on the assessed value, and that's actually doubling to 1%. But as a hey, like we're not totally screwing you. There was a rebate for any Canadian citizens of $2,000 if you had to pay the vacancy and speculation tax, and they're doubling that as well to $4,000. So hey, it's not all
A little
bad.
more money.
On that second home your vacation home, I'm sorry, you're gonna pay a little bit more, 1%, and it's a tough thing to carry, like 1% per year, like that's eating probably your equity unless you're getting a big boom year. But per year, in inflation and everything, like that's not nothing. But for satellite families, and that's people who are making their money living, outside of Canada, but they have that vacant home in BC, it's going from 2 to 3%, which I thought was interesting. So they are already paying more. They're already paying double or more than double, way more than double. But they're actually only getting a 50% increase. So I don't know, kind of interesting. Vince, you have an opinion there?
I don't know. It's we were talking about this earlier, but how to lie with stats. I'm like, yeah, you could also say their increase is 1%, and everyone else that is not a satellite family, their increase is only 0.5%. So
right.
you can look at it either way, but either way, taxes are up. If you don't live in your home and you don't have someone else living in your home, taxes are going up.
Yeah. And we did talk about, we actually had a lunch yesterday. Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
And it was with a lawyer who works with foreign buyers and all that
Should we
stuff.
name him?
Yeah, go for it.
Shout out to Leo from Infinity Law.
Yeah.
That was very informative.
Very informative. Thank
yeah.
you, Leo.
And if you are a foreign buyer, I think he's the guy. Like
Mhm.
he knew the inside out. I actually went there being like, foreign buyers can't buy real estate.
Yeah, this will be a short workshop.
Yeah.
and then I left being like, wow, this is so complicated. And if
Yeah.
I do ever, and I don't know more really, because it's just so complex. But Leo does know, and
Yeah.
he can navigate it quite proficiently.
Great lunch too.
Yeah, it was good
Mhm.
lunch. But yeah, the one thing that Leo talked about for the speculation tax is you can rent it out, but it has to be arm's length. Well, it can be a family member, but there's crazy rules surrounding that. I won't get
Yeah.
into that, but most likely you want to have an arm's length renter, and that way you can kind of circumvent that speculation and vacancy tax.
Wait, so but family can be living there.
They can,
Yeah.
but they
Like, can't family live there rent free?
Yeah,
Isn't
your
that the
immediate
point?
family. But
Yeah.
if you're
Oh.
trying to say, oh, well, it's my cousin,
My grandma or
my
something.
grandma. My grandma's living in my house. I'm living overseas in Dubai, but my
Oh.
grandma's moved into the house.
Mhm.
This is where it gets really crazy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
let's keep it
Gra-
quick though.
Okay, grandma needs to be making, on paper, filing with her income tax, 6 times the annual fair market rent of David's house. So, David, you're in Dubai. You're a satellite family. You got a house in Oak Bay.
Yeah.
Grandma has to be filing a tax return because the CRA was tired of grandma being like a student, in air quotes, not filing proper taxes,
Okay.
but being a sort of tenant. So they said, okay, we'll give you this tenant exemption for family. That's fine. But grandma needs to be making 6 times what the fair market rent for the whole house
and
is.
if you think
Yeah.
about that, like, she's in the house and she's renting, or like whatever, paying you whatever, and she the house rents for $4,000 market rent. I think, like, for like a single family home.
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so I think that equated to her having to be making like $200 to $300 something
Yeah,
thousand
somewhere around
dollars.
300.
Really?
Yeah, because it's
And
fair
so-
market
so-
of the whole house,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just the room
So
she's renting.
and yeah, so basically arm's length is where my takeaway from that, because I don't think anyone like my grandma or my cousin is not going to be making $300,000. I mean, hopefully.
My
Good-
my
good-
key
great for them.
takeaway from that whole conversation is it's not illegal to actively try to get out of paying speculation tax, but you need to make sure that you have really good legal advice and really good
Mhm.
accounting advice
Yeah.
in order to make those informed decisions.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's not illegal to say, oh yeah, no, grandma's here, so I don't have to pay the spec tax. That's not illegal.
Right.
But you have to make sure you're doing it
Yeah.
properly
Yeah.
and follow the law.
Yep.
Yeah. Do your due diligence before making that decision, because otherwise you're going to get hit by a tax bill. So.
Yes. So next up we have rental market. So this
Good
has
news,
been
yeah.
this has been a bit of a debate between me and Vince.
This is not good news,
Basically, there's been a decline in the Victoria market rental, and it's for a fourth straight month. Prices in Victoria have slightly decreased, and I'm not talking, major declines. We're talking very small inclinations. So on one bedrooms, we're down 1.9% from December. So now we're averaging, and so cheap, $2,030 a
Still
month
so much
for a one
money.
bedroom is the
Yeah.
average. And this is a slight 0.5% drop since this time last year. Now for two bedrooms, we're down 1.8, so basically the same since December, at $2,710 per month, but it is still 1.5% higher than last year. And this is a contention debate between me and Vince.
Mhm.
Or are you in concurrence? You
He's not.
I agree. 2 bedrooms
Yeah.
are down.
Yeah.
They're down over the last 4 months, but up since last year.
No, they're down.
See this?
These stats, I don't agree.
All right. But you're going off the anecdotals.
I'm going off of my experience living in the trenches as a
Yeah.
mom and pop landlord.
Which honestly is valuable, and I would say
Thank you.
I do agree with you that talking to property managers, and I'm talking to even like myself as a landlord, it is a tougher environment, and I think it really depends. Like, if it's pet friendly and you have good space and it's whatever, like, yeah, you could charge $2,710
Supply and demand.
easily, like supply and demand. But if
Mhm.
it's a cramped 2-bedroom and no pets and it's not in a desirable area, I think $2,710 is going to be extremely hard to get. So I concur.
I have a quick question, though, about
Yeah.
that, just for David. So
Yes.
when someone's trying to qualify, they've got a mortgage helper in the basement. They're saying, oh, David, this thing will rent for $3,000 a month. And you're saying, no, my son, the rents have come down.
Yeah.
What numbers do you go off of? Is it an appraiser? Is it rentals.com that you're pulling this number from? How do you find these values?
That's a really very loaded question.
Mhm.
Oh.
'Cause
Usually is when we ask him. He's like,
Yeah.
it's not straight. It's not.
nothing is straightforward.
Gotta call me.
but,
Yeah.
used to, so when a client is buying a house with a suite and we're using the suite income, first of all, if there's only a certain percentage of the rental income that we can use to help qualify.
Yes.
So it's not like a rental offset. So it's not like if your qualifying payment is $4,000 but your rental payment is $3,000, it's not like the bank is going to look at that as the qualifying payment then just being $1,000. It's just basically, for most banks, we take the rental income that we're using and we take 50% of that and then add that back to gross income.
Yeah, and I
So-
understand that, but it's how do you value? What is
Yeah.
fair market if the
Good
suite is
question.
empty? How do you value?
Good question. So the appraiser, certified appraiser will do an estimation of market rents in a letter. It costs about, well, now if the costs of those went up by about 100%, the cost of those went about, like, we were paying about $150 for rental letters. Now we're paying about $300. That was just, I don't
That'd be a
even
good
think
side
that.
gig, hey?
Yeah.
Just
I
sit-
don't
Well, I
know,
feel like
it's
but
$3,000.
the appraiser uses comparables to be able to come up with the value that they're using.
Where do they get their data set?
They get their
Facebook
data
Marketplace.
from everywhere.
Where else would
No,
it-
you're right.
But I've
Everywhere.
been called by an appraiser
Pardon me?
before. I've had calls from appraisers
Right.
before. So they're calling realtors. They're probably looking
Yeah,
online.
they're getting a lot of data from everywhere, and they're using comparables. Now the problem is that most of our suites here in Victoria are non-conforming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're not legal. They're not
Yeah,
permitted.
yeah.
Before, the appraisers would still write a market rents letter for a suite that was non-conforming, and now, boom, I don't even know what it was, 2 or 3 months ago, we got the notification that appraisers couldn't give market rents assessments for suites that are non-legal. So it makes it extremely difficult for a new buyer to come in and use that rental income on a new property where the suite is non-conforming, because we can't get the letter from the appraiser.
Could you, so let's say I'm trying to buy a house, on Gorge, and I find a tenant for that vacant suite. So the deal closes in a month. I would find a tenant, and I would have a condition in my tenancy agreement, because I don't actually own the house yet, saying subject to Vince actually getting a mortgage on this place.
Yeah.
And so the tenant would sign a rental agreement at, say, $2,000 a month for
Yeah.
rent. Can I then put that in my application? And
So
maybe?
good question, and that's what's called an exception. In that most,
if I have a contract with a tenant, that's an exception?
because lenders still, when we provide a tenancy agreement to prove rent, we also have to provide 3 months bank statements showing the rental
Got it.
history going in. And so if we just have the tenancy agreement signed, it's technically an exception for the lender
Because
to
you could
use.
be hiring any Joe Smo.
David's grandma.
Yeah, to sign whatever agreement to look good on the papers.
Yeah, so generally,
That would be fun.
generally they're not just going to accept that. That's a nice thought. I love it, but they're not going to accept it
Yeah,
because
makes sense.
because anybody could write up a tenancy agreement,
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody's going to have the money going into their bank account for 3 months.
But if there's an existing tenant living in the suite already,
Different story.
Different story.
Well, yeah, if there's an existing tenant living in the suite and
Mhm.
it's documented on the contract that the tenant is staying and that they're paying that certain amount, then I can't see how the lender would say no.
What if that tenant is leaving, but they'd been paying that for X amount of years?
I love it.
Call David.
Just call me. It's a lot of exceptions. So yeah, it's been really difficult using this, because I did order one of these. So the appraiser actually I'm just telling you this quick story. The appraiser said to us, okay, we can't do a market rents assessment, but we can do a consulting report. And this was for exactly this situation, for a house with actually 2 suites. And I needed 2 consulting reports for each suite. And so we get this so we pay for it, or the client paid for it up front. And then we get these consulting reports back. And I love this appraiser. I've been using her for 20 years. but the consulting report doesn't even have the property address on it. So I'm like,
Not super helpful.
I can't
Copy
use
paste.
this.
Yeah.
I can't use
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So the appraiser literally still had to pull comparables and everything for the suites there, but they wouldn't put in their consulting report what property they were referring to. So I couldn't use it. Ultimately, I got around it. Like I figured out the situation, but it's just like the regulations are getting tougher.
It's getting
and
harder and
tougher.
harder. Yeah. So back to rental prices, guys.
It is going down.
We are getting really good at going off some tangents today. We're getting fun.
It's because it's hot in here.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why.
hot. Yeah.
I'm
David?
curious where that statistic came from because I agree with Vince
Yes, Adrian.
in that
Yeah. I can't remember exactly.
because like I know personally of some landlords that have had suites and they have been renting them at maybe $1,600 before.
Yeah.
But now they're having to relist them once the tenant leaves. They're having to relist them at like $1,450.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
And
that's true. I mean, I'm guessing that's out in the West Shore.
This one is
No, that's in town.
Mhm.
That's in town.
Yeah.
I'm so curious though, because the stats that they're seeing, I wonder if they are actually like directly related to what the tenants are paying, or if it is just what stuff they're seeing renting
Right.
online. Because I mean, I see the same ads coming up and up when I'm looking at rental prices, and you're like, so that's been sitting for 60 days without a tenant in it.
Yeah.
Is that the cost that they're using, or is it actually what people are paying on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
We
know.
need an organized rental MLS.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and I don't understand why
That would be
property
good.
managers have not done that. I think
Mhm.
it's $1 million idea.
Well,
You don't
Vince,
give me
what
a
do you-
sec.
why-
I'll
what-
be
yeah,
right back.
Yeah, what are you doing
Yeah.
here? Yeah. But yeah, I just want to quickly touch on. So Victoria is still ranking fourth most expensive rental market in Canada. The national trend, again, it's worse elsewhere in Canada in terms of rents dropping.
Like it's getting more affordable, or it's getting
more-
less affordable?
more affordable.
That's good.
Like Victoria's dropped
Mhm.
significantly less than other cities. Like
Yeah.
we're seeing 4 to like 8% drops in other cities versus
Mhm.
Victoria had a 0.5% drop.
That backs up David's point
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
Victoria being insulated from all these other kind of
Definitely.
Victoria is a
economic
bubble.
worries.
Well,
yeah.
Such
I
a
mean,
bubble.
the other thing that we have to remember is like Toronto, like having this like decline, they have crazy supply. They have
Mhm.
skyscrapers. They have unlimited, like well, not unlimited, but they have room to grow. They've built the city
But
out.
a lot of Canadian cities do.
Yes,
Like not
exactly.
in BC. BC is like the worst. We're mountains, rocks, ocean. But
Yeah.
if you go, into Manitoba or, other prairies, you can build. It's
Yeah.
easier to build. Same with Ontario. It's easier to build.
So Vancouver remains the most expensive still. Burnaby overtakes Toronto as the second most expensive.
Crazy.
Burnaby.
Yeah.
Who's living in Burnaby?
All the people who can't afford
Be
to live
nice.
in Vancouver.
I like Burnaby.
Halifax enters the top 5,
Oh, yeah.
pushing Ottawa
Mm.
out.
Ooh.
No way.
That's surprising.
Yep.
That I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think same thing as BC. They're landlocked. They don't have the giant supply. They haven't densified as much.
Well,
So
and Halifax is more affordable.
yeah.
So, well, it was. I don't know.
And why are rents dropping? We've talked a little bit about it, but there's more rental completions. The government added that incentive for rental buildings.
MLS Select.
Yeah.
And the GST.
Yeah,
Mhm.
slower population growth, also reduced
Mhm.
immigration. So
Mhm.
there's a couple different reasons of why this is happening. It's not just a one pony issue. But I have a question. I'm guessing Jocelyn's already read it on her thing. I see you're peeking over there.
I haven't read nothing.
What is? I'm glad.
Yeah.
What is the most affordable rental market in Canada? What city?
Ooh.
Vincent's bro. I can see he's
Just
flickering.
thinking,
He's doing
it's
like,
prairies.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna guess somewhere in Saskatchewan.
Okay, you're
Ooh.
there,
I don't know.
but where? Give me the
Does
city.
it have to be a big city?
It has to be.
What's
yeah.
their population?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never been there.
Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw.
I
Okay.
want to say Moose Jaw.
Okay.
Moose Jaw,
But only because it's the only
Saskatchewan.
one.
It is actually Saskatoon.
Saskatoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So only $12.30 for a one
I'm
bed.
looking right at it.
I know you are. That's why I said you're peeking. And then $14.50 for a 2-bed. And this is a funny anecdote. So I have a friend who lives with roommates in Oka Bay, and he lives in a big house, and it's quite affordable. He pays $1,000 a month. He lives in one of the rooms with 3 other roommates. Blah blah blah. and he met a girl from Saskatchewan, and she was visiting, and they're hitting it off and stuff, and he was taking her to have dinner at his house, and he's like, oh, just heads up, like I have like 2 or 3 other roommates, and she's like, what?
What's wrong with
She's
you?
like, how down bad are you? And it was this realization that in Saskatchewan nobody has roommates.
Oh.
Because
Space to
like,
roam.
like
Affordable,
she's
yeah.
a student and she works part-time and she has her own 1 bedroom.
Yeah. Oh, Saskatoon.
Think about that.
We're
Wow.
coming for
Yeah.
you.
Versus like she's living in a 1 bed for the same price my friend is living in a house
room.
in a
Yeah.
room for the same price. So yeah, kind of funny. But it's funny because she came here being like, that's normal. Like she was thinking like he's having financial
bum.
problems. He's a bum. Anyway, funny story. Now how are we doing on time? Do you think we have time to? I'll just do one trivia question.
Okay.
On this, don't peek at my screen, Vince. So similar to Vince's question, a couple podcasts or it was last podcast, on the most expensive home on, I think it was Vancouver Island. Was it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I cheated. It was a different
Yeah,
island.
yeah, but
Yeah.
still, we'll
You
count
can't
it.
really count it.
The most expensive home in and around Victoria, so Greater Victoria. Can we guess on the price?
Are we including Machosen?
I don't know. I think maybe, but it's not Machosen. I will. give you the
Okay,
hint
okay.
there.
Because
Yeah.
there's one property out there that went
There
for
is
like
the one.
yeah, with like
Yeah.
the river going through the
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how much did that go for? Do you remember?
I want to say 17.
Yeah, I
Something like
remember that.
that.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I mean,
So,
that was a
so I will
beautiful
give you the
property.
hint. This is appraised more. Our BC assessment more than 17 million.
And it's
Ooh,
residential.
Residential.
23 million.
Is it government house?
You know what? I'll actually give you a picture. Here's the picture of the property right there. You have your own island. You have a couple
Oh,
bays
I've
to go
seen this
swimming
one,
in.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is
You have your own nice dock.
this is like 10-mile point, I think.
I think
think
so.
so, yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw the address, so I can't. I'm eliminated.
Yes.
Eliminated.
So, do you have any ideas on the assessment? I will ask you that. I said more than 17, so a pretty good hint.
No, actually. And the reason is waterfront is actually such a bargain in Victoria. When you look
Yeah.
at the average price of waterfront versus the average price of single family detached in Victoria, it is the best bargain in all of Canada, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
It doesn't add that much more
It
value,
doesn't,
which
yeah.
is crazy. You're like,
Yeah.
you're on the water.
But you
Yeah.
just wanted a number. I can't give
Yeah.
you that.
17.78.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going for 22.
22.
Mm.
Somehow Jocelyn was pretty close. We have 17.286.
I'm just
Mm.
such a good realtor.
Wow.
And interesting thing, it actually had a BC assessment increase by almost 100,000 or 100,000. No, sorry, $1 million since
What?
2024.
Wow. Where did they
I
get an
think
extra $1 million?
BC assessment, they're
BC
just like,
assessment.
they're rich.
They'll pay
Yeah,
that.
let's
That's
get some
fine.
more
Yeah,
taxes.
yeah.
That's
Somebody
right.
somebody
Tax
put
the
an
rich.
accidental zero in it, and they were like, "Eh, they
Yeah.
won't even notice."
But yeah, the address is 3160 Humber Road, and
It's
this,
beautiful.
Oh my
Mhm.
God, it is
Yeah,
crazy.
look it up. It's a
Mm.
stunning
Yeah.
piece of property.
But I agree with you, Vince. I would say that I do see some like waterfront listings, and like obviously, I would say like they're maybe double the price of single family detached, but you're getting like
Depending
half
on
an
where you
acre
are,
of
though.
land, and you're like oceanfront, and I'm like,
It's incredible.
And in terms
Yeah.
of value, I'm like, okay, well, this single family rundown house is 1.3, and then this mansion with all these nice features and this nice piece of land and your waterfront for however many meters, and it's only double. Like double
No,
doesn't
it's
seem
going to
right.
be more than double still.
Hey,
No, well, it depends. It
not
depends on the
always,
property.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Like,
there's less buyers.
what
though,
was
that's
that
the
property I wanted you to buy out in Saanich?
Oh, Willis Point.
Willis Point. There
Yeah.
was
Waterfront.
There was
with
like
a dock.
a 3-bed,
Yeah.
3-bath, had a dock, waterfront,
Mm.
and a little bit of needed some updating, but you're getting like this nice waterfront property out in Willis
Good
Point.
bones.
Good.
Mhm.
1.2 million.
Wow.
because it's
Below the average.
Willis Point.
Willis Point. But
so
I mean,
do we know some of the like seismic stuff going on at Willis Point?
No.
And
Allegedly never confirmed in court.
yeah. So I mean, Willis Point is stunning. It's hard to get to, but it's also really hard to
Mhm.
build. If
Is
you
this-
want to, build
Interesting.
anything,
Okay.
very very challenging to
Is
build.
this
at
Mark
Willis Point.
Lane? Is that
Yeah,
where-
it's like
Yeah.
out that
Yeah,
direction.
okay, right.
Yeah, but there's some absolutely beautiful
Yeah.
properties out there, and but it is you're dealing with like rock face. And,
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's
so there's some issues.
talk to your realtor.
Okay, so not as good of a deal as I thought.
I know it's still a really good deal for
Okay.
waterfront. No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think we should get into our neighborhood highlight.
Oh, it's a
Jocelyn.
doozy.
Is it a doozy?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
We are talking about downtown Victoria.
Oh.
Yeah. So I feel like this should have been its own podcast because downtown Victoria
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in downtown Victoria. As far as real estate, I mean, downtown Victoria it's a lot of condos, it's a lot of commercial building. I don't think there's a single family in sight. I don't know. Back me up here, guys. But I couldn't find any.
There is some single family in like the industrial
Yeah, like
section.
Rock Bay,
Rock
Princess
Bay,
Ave.
yeah.
But does that count as downtown Victoria though?
It's
Where-
well,
where's-
technically,
what's
It's
your
like right on the
definition
border.
for
and technically
downtown?
it's been
Mhm.
rezoned, but there's single family homes there.
Yeah.
What are the
So-
borders that you're using for downtown?
It goes like by the Save On Foods. It kind of cuts in a little bit because then North
Like the
Park
arena?
is its own thing. Yeah, so like goes down Blanchard, comes across Caledonia, I think. Is
Yeah,
on
there'll be
top
lots of single family dwellings in there,
Well,
like North Park area.
Well, North Park's its own thing though.
Okay.
So it's not. Yeah. So the way that VREB has it designed.
Okay.
Is, there's not a lot of single family within it. And there's a lot on like the border in James Bay and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah. Anyways, lots of condos,
Okay.
lots of commercial stuff. But really, it's got its tourist hub.
Yep.
Yeah, it is hugely popular when it comes to tourist attractions.
I mean, one thing that I will give props to Victoria downtown is I've visited other major cities in Canada in the summer and whatever, like Calgary, for example. And I go to downtown Calgary and it's a ghost town.
yeah.
And I'm like, the population's bigger here in Calgary. And there's more buildings.
Mhm.
There's more businesses. There's more everything. And I walk around downtown and I'm like one of 6 people on like a
But
giant
we've
block
got-
with massive bars.
We've got like cruise ships being
Yes.
dropped off. We've got people coming from all over.
But
the
I would say
world.
even in the winter, I walk down on a weekday at
Mhm.
like 3 p.m. and there's hundreds of
There's
people
stuff going on. Yeah.
walking around downtown.
Government workers.
Government workers.
Government
Yeah,
workers,
there's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
There's a lot going on downtown. Like
Yep.
it is. I mean, I think I was reading something like Victoria has the highest restaurant per capita in all of Canada.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah.
85% of those restaurants are in downtown Victoria. They are not
Yeah.
in any other areas. Like there is so many restaurants. All of our shopping is downtown. Like there is a lot to bring people to downtown Victoria. Unfortunately, like most downtown cores, it is facing some issues that have been plaguing a lot of downtowns. I mean, there's obviously homeless is on the rise, crime is on the rise. There's parts of downtown that don't feel particularly safe anymore, which is unfortunate. But if we focus on the positives of downtown Victoria, like the tourist attractions, I don't know. Have you ever played tourist for a day?
I mean, I try to sometimes for sure, but I do take it for granted, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Like, and there's so much history as well. The Parliament buildings, the Empress, they're incredible pieces of Canadian history that just exist downtown. And if you've ever walked down there, I mean, it's pretty cool. Even in the winter, they've got, all the lights, everything.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. I like visiting other cities in Canada and even in the States and stuff. Like, I feel like Victoria downtown is actually really nice. And I know people, I guess like, have a negative outlook more recently on the downtown core for obvious reasons. But when and me as well, I catch myself being like, oh, like downtown, it's gotten worse, da 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 da, and then I go somewhere else, even Seattle, for example. I mean, that's actually a horrible
Seattle's a
example
great
of difference.
downtown.
But and I come back to Victoria and I'm like, oh no, like Victoria has a nice downtown.
I sometimes wonder too, like I also kind of think more poorly on downtown Victoria these days. And I'm like, is it my age though? And less about the downtown, because when it comes to downtown, like that's where all the restaurants, it's live music, we have art galleries, we have like there's lots to do downtown that is not necessarily something that I'm looking for on my Saturday evening. So for the younger population, I think that downtown has a lot to offer. It's still, I don't know what the nightlife's like. If anyone's in the clubs, let me know, because I haven't been in there in a while, but it used to be really fun, like college age, going out, lots of live music, lots of brew pubs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if our downtown is necessarily known for its nightlife.
I don't think so.
We have our, I think, 5 or 6 bar clubs that you have to choose from. It's not like a major city where every corner of downtown has its own thing going on. But I think it's busy.
Oh, it's definitely busy.
Yeah.
I think on Saturday nights. The last, I don't know, it was 4 months ago when I went out on a Saturday.
It's changing though.
Yeah.
It's
In that
changing.
it is extremely difficult to survive in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
As we've seen
And we're
from
seeing
this
that.
recent
Yeah.
news
Yeah.
with the Brasserie Le Cole.
Yeah.
And
It's
they're-
going to be okay though.
Well, I
Yeah.
think there was enough of an uproar about it in that Brasserie probably just said like it's not worth getting the negative press about basically just getting charity, that we're just going to make it work on our own. Did you not see this?
I saw there was a
Yeah.
GoFundMe.
Yeah. There was
a
but
GoFundMe.
What's the latest?
The Brasserie just basically was like, it's okay. We're going to refund all the money. We've found a way to make it work without you.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, good
So
for them.
yeah, I don't know what the internal was, but yeah, they're
And
coming back.
now we're talking about Brasserie Le Cole on the Victoria Real Estate
We
Podcast.
are.
Yeah.
So
Go support.
I
go
mean,
support
there's
it.
been restaurants that have
Yeah.
existed since I was a child in
Yeah.
downtown Victoria. Like the Tapa Bar, for example, has been there forever. It's like an institution. in
Pagliacci's?
Pagliacci's,
That's
yeah.
like a classic.
Oh, my dad
homage.
is
You pronounce the G, hey?
yeah, Pagliacci's.
Pagliacci's.
I would say
Interesting.
Pagliacci's.
Yeah,
Just-
that's my
Mhm.
that's my uncultured.
No, it's like GIF or GIF. You know,
Yeah.
everyone has a strong opinion.
I've
on
always
it.
said Pagliacci's, but Pagliacci's.
Well, because I think everyone calls it Pags.
Pags.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
why.
they've got a wicked happy hour. I did not know
Yeah.
that, but yeah, shout
Yeah,
out
Wicked
to
Happy
Pags.
Hour. They have a
Mhm.
great bottomless soup every day.
Oh, and
Yeah.
the bread.
Oh, the bread.
Man.
The bread.
Mm.
It's
Go
those
there.
things that make you want to go to a restaurant, like free bread.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But just
Yeah,
good
free
bread,
bread.
too.
It's
I will
good
go to a
free
restaurant
bread.
for
Yeah.
good bread.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Um,
Downtown Victoria, it does have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I think if you're at a very specific time in your life, I think downtown can be really great. There's a lot of newer buildings as well if you're looking for like a newer product.
Like steel and concrete,
Steel and
rooftop,
concrete,
you know,
rooftop.
barbecue pit, that kind of
Exactly. All that stuff. A lot of that is being built downtown. There's also there's so many really cool heritage buildings that have been kind of like converted.
Yeah.
And have that like, brick siding and then
Facade.
modern
On the
yeah.
inside, yeah.
I don't know.
That's the
They're-
classic Victoria.
Yeah,
right
like I
now.
actually love a lot of the real estate in downtown Victoria, but there's a trade-off for sure.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
And I have my giant list of food recommendations.
Yeah. What is it?
And-
200.
And in every other one, I've been able to name my 2 or 3s, but I have probably, I don't even know, 100 blue dots on my screen. So if you want a food recommendation,
hmm
message me, and I can even send you the link. For
There's
this
too
map,
many to
so.
list. I mean, even looking at like all of the awesome things, there's Chinatown, Bastion Square,
Yeah.
Centennial Square, Market Square. Like it is worth just going down and spending a day in downtown Victoria. I
Mhm.
am also guilty of this because we live in
Farther
the
away,
sticks.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and
The
I'm like, it's really 15 minutes away to get
Yeah.
downtown.
It's really great to bike around too, actually, with all the
Mhm.
bike lanes now.
Oh yeah.
Don't get
I'm
me
sorry, I
started.
brought it up. No, sorry, guys.
I fought it, and I'll say I was wrong, and I was wrong for years about this. I got so angry about the bike lanes. I feel like my spirit animal is a 65-year-old man.
It is
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
I just got so angry about it, and I ended up buying a bike. Fine. I'll use them, and like you said, David, it's so handy to get around,
Yeah.
and
You don't feel like you're gonna die with semi trucks going right past you.
No, but
There's a curb.
there's a curb.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've really kind of tried to protect and put up these physical barriers.
Mhm.
I think it was always safe to be downtown biking, but now it's not so much the bike infrastructure, it's the fact that they're pulling a lot of parking. So
Mhm.
now I'm like, okay, if I want to zip down for a quick lunch with a client or something, it's actually easier for me to take my
Yeah,
bike.
it
Or
is-
sometimes I'll park
Mhm.
like out in the suburbs and then bike that final mile, kilometer, into
Kilometer.
town.
Yeah.
They are
How dare
definitely-
you
yeah.
use miles on this
Yeah.
podcast.
We're in a trade war.
They are definitely making it more challenging to have a car downtown
Yeah.
for sure, which is not necessarily a bad thing, except Victoria tends to be a city where even if you live downtown, you have family that lives in Langford or
Yeah.
Saanich, and you do need a vehicle. So that's probably the biggest downside right now of purchasing in downtown Victoria is parking.
definitely.
Yeah.
But honestly, on the side of having less parking, I actually think it's a pro in certain areas. Like, is it Government where they shut down the whole drivability?
Oh, that was amazing.
Oh yeah.
And you walk down Government, and there's people doing like a
Mhm.
concert on the side of the
Mhm.
Yeah.
road, and
Yeah.
like everyone's like mingling through the streets, and
Walkable
like
cities.
The walkable
Yeah.
city. The walkable street.
and
yeah.
it makes it so much more fun to be downtown than having cars zip by and you're on either sidewalk.
It adds a vibe. I
it
mean,
adds a complete vibe.
this
They
is-
did that on Robson too, actually.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
closed part of Robson too.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that stuff.
It
Yeah.
makes a big difference. People are not worried about being hit by cars, so they're partying in the streets.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could, and there is a place for it, which is downtown,
Yeah,
where
I
you
agree.
can walk and park.
Any final tidbits?
Yeah, I actually
of-
had some quiz questions for you
Oh,
guys.
that's
'cause
right.
We are all. David, are you born and raised in Victoria as
I'm
well?
born in Calgary.
Okay,
But I've
so-
been here for 20 years now.
So he-
Okay, so
Yeah,
you're a
he's good.
local,
He
yeah.
knows.
Because these guys were born and raised in Victoria, so I'm curious if they know some fun facts.
Well,
about
Langford,
downtown
so I'm gonna
Victoria.
give myself a little bit of it out
Ooh,
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you should
For a
know.
bit there, but I've been more Victoria in the last 5-8 years.
Okay, I have to look these up, but all right. So Port Victoria, which is obviously the major port in downtown Victoria,
Yeah.
what was their largest import until 1908?
Import?
Import.
You're
Yeah, if
talking
this
a-
is hard, I can give you a.
Bringing,
I can
like,
give
You're
the
you
talking
a-
like at Ogden Point?
what were they bringing in to Port Victoria? Okay, I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
Is it tea, blankets or opium?
I'm sorry, until the 19 something.
1908.
Tea.
I'm gonna say opium, just for fun.
Adrian.
Let's go.
They
Opium
actually,
was big back then.
Opium
Yeah,
is
it's
huge.
true.
It was our number one import. And they actually, I think it was like 1860 or something, they taxed it. Like it was legal. It was fine. And they were making money off it. And then they banned it in 1908. And
Right. Too many
I don't know, we
people.
switched to blankets or something. I'm not sure.
That is wild.
Fun facts about Victoria.
But I don't think opium was necessarily used as a drug until.
Oh yeah, we had opium dens
Yeah.
in Chinatown.
Oh, we did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People would just be like spaced out all day. Honestly, we complain about downtown Victoria. Like people have been up to shenanigans and
Oh, yeah.
drugs for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
down there.
opium was just like cooler, I guess. I don't know.
The pipes
I'm
are pretty
weird.
cool.
The pipes are pretty cool.
Wasn't laced with anything.
No. Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
Our Chinatown is Canada's oldest. True or false?
True.
I'm gonna go true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and actually the second oldest in North America. San
Wow.
Francisco's is older.
I knew that.
Yeah. I had a feeling Vince would know this. I actually threw these in for you, Vince, because
Yeah.
Vince gets mad at me when I don't do historical facts about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So here's a little history for you. Okay. What is the name of Canada's oldest brew pub? It's located in
Swans.
Victoria.
It's located. What's
Spinnakers.
In
know.
Victoria. Ding, ding, ding.
Too
Vince.
quick.
Yeah.
I figure if I just guess like 10, I'll get one.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
How much tea does the Empress serve annually? Is it 500,000, a million, or 336,000? These are cups of tea served annually.
See, 336 throwing me off because that's pretty exact. You know.
Do
That
refills
is
count?
quite exact.
I don't think refills count. I think this is just
I'm going to say 1 million.
I got to do the pinky at the moment. I'll go 500,000.
At 336,000 maybe doesn't seem like enough, but it's very specific. So I don't know.
I threw it in as a wild card. Yeah, it was 500,000 annually served. So the Empress, if you are listening and you're not familiar, Empress is also like a huge landmark in downtown Victoria. And fun fact, was built the year they banned opium.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they got really productive.
We gotta diversify.
Holy guys, I'm feeling great. Do you want to build a really cool building?
It might have completed the year that they banned opium, but yeah, I like to think that Victoria came out of its opium years and went straight into its tea years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
The
that's,
golden years.
Yeah, and that pretty much sums up downtown Victoria. Yeah.
Okay.
it's,
Yeah. Well, Vince, you won.
Yeah.
The congratulations.
Way to go, Vince.
I don't know if it was a contest, but thanks, guys.
Whoa, whoa! You're saying that there was no competition over here?
No, that's not what it's But now you mention it.
Yeah. I know. Vince.
You're a Langford kid. You know,
Yeah.
Like,
it's
what are you gonna do? I have a dog in a truck or something like
yeah,
that.
we won't hold it against
yeah,
you.
a little rough around the edges. Vince, market update.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on? To say that it was a bit of a false start to spring, I think would be accurate.
Yeah.
We were so excited. Every realtor in Victoria was like, in January, it's great. Spring market's here.
Yeah.
Get those sales
January
signs up."
6th, we're like running
Yep.
around,
Yeah.
fielding calls. Yeah.
It's so true. And then for some reason, February kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
And it felt like a little bit of a false start. So that's been kind of interesting to see just in the trenches speaking with other agents. David, I'm sure you're busy because you've got people that are still like qualifying. Like when they're talking to you, they're probably 3 or 4 weeks before they're talking to us. So my hunch
Hopefully.
is that you're busier. I don't know what your experience is like.
Like right now, my phone is almost off the hook,
Okay.
but it's not necessarily with productive calls.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of people that are still like, is now a good time?
Yeah.
So even though my phone is ringing off the hook, I don't think it's necessarily an
productive.
indication. Yeah, I don't think it's an indication that our market's going to be going crazy. But I think it is picking up. I think part of the reason my phone is off the hook is because there are a lot of renewals coming up.
Well,
right.
and you keep telling everyone to call you.
Yeah.
Well,
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But so it's interesting. We, our last, I guess, big rate drop, September, that was kind of what pushed, everyone was saying, okay, we're getting lined up for spring. We've had, now it's been pretty steady, not a ton of interest rate, like violent action with interest rates. It's been kind of a direction, not like a big surge down or up. But interesting that, sales were up year over year. So a lot of agents in 24, it was a way better year than 23. But if we're, comparing this past February over February of 24, we were up 12%. Now that's sales volume. That's
Yeah.
not dollars,
price, yeah.
not price. Prices are kind of they're roughly steady. They're not going up or down more than 2%.
Yeah, and they've been steady for like how long? Like, would you say it's been decently flat?
To me, it's 2 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. Is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
market
yeah.
stopped going crazy in 23.
I would say 2 years were down like slightly. Well, depends on what.
Yeah,
Depends
it
on,
depends on what.
Depends on what. Condos
Condos
a bit
have been hammered.
more.
Yeah,
relatively
Single
speaking.
family, I would say, it has been a lot stronger and
Mhm.
more on the flat line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we say this every time.
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. But the really short version of the market update is that we are about as close to a balanced market as you can get in terms of the months of inventory that we're carrying, but also just the way that negotiation is happening.
Yeah.
We actually have to negotiate. It's
Mhm.
rare that we're seeing multiple offers, but
Unless
it's also
you're Vince.
I'm not. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
We'll get there. But I think we're seeing just kind of steady Eddie. Buyers are able to find deals, and sellers are not having to give the place away, but they're also not, laughing all the way to the bank.
Yep.
Mhm.
Unless you're my recent seller, but we'll get there. So that's the market update. February was kind of just a wait and see sort of month.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a slowdown from January. January was really excited. I think March will be busy, but I mean, professional
I think
optimist
after
here,
spring
so
break,
we'll see.
probably.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing with January is I think that there was that slight weird bip of like everyone over the holidays who maybe didn't buy because they're
Mhm.
busy and whatever. They came into January being like, oh God, we need to get our our blank together,
Mhm.
right?
We had more inventory in January than
Yeah,
we normally do as
slightly,
well. I think
yeah.
that might have made a difference.
And
yeah.
when I was reaching out to condos, I was seeing,
Mhm.
that it was sold 50%
Mhm.
of the time I was reaching out when my buyers were
Mhm.
interested. And then with single family, like a handful of multiple offers on good product.
Mhm.
But then February, again, I would say now I'm back to reaching out to most condo buildings and hasn't sold.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting that same,
Yeah.
maybe little blip.
Yeah.
Weird little blip.
You got an amazing deal on that one place.
Which one?
The one in the Juliet building. That was an amazing deal. The one with the windows that are like this.
Have you removed conditions
Oh.
on that one yet?
Yeah, that's sealed up.
That's done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what's crazy is in the Juliet building, 2-bed, 1-bath. Oh man, I can't remember what we got it for, but it was like anyway. Literally, the next door neighbor, as soon as we removed conditions, they listed, and it's a 2-bed, 2-bath, but actually smaller square footage, worse view, worse layout, and $120,000 list higher than what we got ours for.
That's a
Interesting.
pricey
That's a
bathroom.
That's a bold
That's
move.
you got
yeah.
an amazing deal on
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you
definitely.
did very
Well, my clients did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Congrats,
You
guys.
did good for your clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we whittled them down. I think they were on the market for like good 2 years though, so they
Mhm.
were defeated. They started, I think, at 899, and we got it for, I think,
625.
625.
Condos.
And I think the real takeaway here is like listen to the market. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
if you're listed more than a month and you're not getting showings or you're seeing the traffic is starting to drop, on your realtor.ca stats. So if you're a seller out there and you've got a place listed on the market, pay attention to those stats.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, we're a very seasonal market, but there also comes a point where like, hey, no amount of spring lift is going to move it if you're, 10% over where it should
Yeah.
be.
Yep.
I don't want to take too much time because I know we're running out of time. But
Yeah.
sellers who have had their place on the market for so long really do need to also reach out to me because they don't know that they might just be able to bridge whatever they're trying to do,
Mhm.
depending on how
yeah.
much equity
Mhm.
they have. So with some people that come to me and say my house has been listed for 3 months and I'm just waiting for that buyer kind of thing, I'm just like, well, do you have enough equity to just take it off the market and wait for the seller's market, which is probably going to come eventually, I think.
Eventually, yeah.
You
we'll
know,
see.
Yeah. One day.
Yeah.
but a lot of people can bridge and they don't realize it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's just I think a lot of fear, like the short-term kind of bridge financing. There's a fear about the costs,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
I don't want to pay all these fees. But you think about how much you're paying in opportunity cost by letting all these amazing deals go by, and you're just stuck on
Mhm.
your high asking price on your listing.
Mhm.
I should be more clear though. My solution isn't a bridge. My solution is actually just 2 mortgages against one mortgage against the new property and then one mortgage
Oh,
against the
okay.
existing
Got it.
property. So no bridge fees,
Mhm.
no extra fees, and as long as the income is good and as long as the equity is there, it's all AAA solution.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know.
All right.
There you go.
Call David.
Call David.
Call David.
That's our new
We're
slogan.
just
Thank
gonna
you,
call
guys.
this
Thank
podcast
you.
Call David.
And call these guys to get the house sold or bought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vince, you had that anecdote. So you recently listed a single family, quite affordable, especially for the Greater Victoria area. What did you guys list at? 899.
Yeah, we were $899.
Yeah.
And we ended up having over 6 offers on it. So
Yeah.
what that tells me is, I mean, there's a whole pile of extenuating circumstances, but what that tells me is single family is always the first. Single family in the core is always the first to rebound from a slowdown.
Yeah.
When the spring market starts to go, it's those single family, the place that is livable but could use a reno. Those are the ones that absolutely get snapped
Fly
up
off, yeah.
because the price comparison between that or say a new townhouse, it's about the same, give or take $50K.
Yeah.
So
that's a prime example. Like in that area, what is that townhouse development?
2 kilometers away from that one
Is
900 Grayson.
Grayson.
Shout out to Abstract.
And Grayson is
great
priced,
product.
I think, 3-4 beds.
Yeah, so the 4 beds are just over $1 million.
Yeah, so we're looking at like 950 to 10 or $1,050,000 price range, or you're getting an
Plus
older, plus GST, or you're getting an older needing a reno. And I think people really do value owning their own
The dirt.
They own the dirt.
Yeah,
They can do what they want.
and
Tune it
50% of the sales in Victoria are strata.
Yeah.
And probably 50% of the buyers I talk to say, I never want to be in a strata
Yeah.
again. So that really pushes the price up on single family
Non-strata.
detached.
Yeah. We need to make strata more appealing, and I don't know the answer. But
I have the answer.
yeah.
Listen to the episode from
Eli.
Eli. That was so fantastic. Hearing Thomas's kind of explanation about how to make, have that transparency and that data.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping to get the founder of Strata Press on as well to just talk about transparency in the strata space. But I mean, strata is something that is so rife with conflict. And it's unnecessarily adversarial in a lot of situations. You have these kind of kangaroo court CRT. It just makes everyone stressed out.
Yeah.
But it does sound like we as in Victoria are better than some other major cities where
Absolutely.
Yes.
where
Really?
Yeah.
that's what Thomas was kind of saying. He was saying that in some other major cities, it's not standard to get all the minutes sent to you. It's not
In
standard
Ontario.
to
Ontario
get all
in
the
particular.
financials.
Yeah.
Okay.
To get
You
a
don't get to. You have to ask specifically for
Okay.
them.
and
but
and it's like not normal for just to be given on the listing. Versus
Mhm.
here, it's like if you don't have like listing docs uploaded with your matrix,
Yeah.
it's like you're doing your client a disservice.
Yeah.
So
and I wouldn't recommend to a buyer that they purchase something not having seen the minutes.
no,
That'd
No,
be wild.
not at all.
Yeah, in my opinion. But
Anything else, Vince?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I'm
Awesome.
tired and hot.
Yeah. Any final remarks, guys, before we sign off? All right. Yeah, you guys.
Tired and hot.
Yeah,
That's all I
tired and
got.
hot.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening to the Victoria Real Estate Podcast produced by the City Nest team. We have had some fantastic reviews and we love them. So please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you are listening. We also really appreciate you guys sharing the podcast with friends and family. Otherwise, Vince, how can people get in touch?
Well, it's going to be by email, please. Vincent@citynest.ca. Thanks.
Jocelyn
You can call me at 604-907-2074.
and David.
Just call me 250-858-7160.
Awesome. And you can, Jocelyn?
I was just going to say, what about you, Adrian?
You can reach out to me at 250-464-4122 or on Instagram at Adrian Real Estate Victoria. And if you guys haven't, check out our podcast handle at Victoria Real Estate Podcast.
Give it a follow.
Nice.
Give it a follow.
You can see our faces.
We're posting the
Yay.
reels. If you don't like the long form content, you can just binge a bunch of clips. And that's it. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.